Hi, I'm Luana Rubin from Equilter.com, and I'm here at the Houston Quilt Market and Quilt Festival to show you some of the exhibits. I'm in the SAQA exhibit, the Studio Art Quilt Association, and I'm going to show you some of the fiber art trends that we've seen here at the show. I'm standing next to my friend Jane Sassaman's quilt, which is an incredible example of very graphic, bright, and strong visuals. But I'd like to show you some other quilts as well that have very soft and subtle images, and also some of the trends such as sculptural and 3D quilts. So come on with me and we'll have a look. Here is a gorgeous quilt by Katie Pasquini-Massapist called Leggiero. Katie's from Santa Fe, and a lot of times we see the colors of Santa Fe in her work, and it comes out in her personality too, and this is a particularly bright piece. I met Katie many years ago at Art Quilt Tahoe, and I was actually in her class. And she has a very tight and very precise method of working. If you look closely at some of the stitching, her very exquisite workmanship shows the amount of time that goes into these quilts, and also shows why she gets such an amazing price for her art quilts. Here's one of the most famous quilts that has ever been shown at Quilt Festival, and I'm delighted to see it back here again. It's Blue Men by Hollis Chatelaine, and it won Best of Show a few years ago, and also was sold for a record-setting price. And I was so proud of Hollis at that time that she really broke through a ceiling for fiber artists who are creating work that is taken seriously. Take a look at some of the close, subtle detailing. I know that Hollis is working on a series of quilts that are monochromatic or tonal, and I just saw one of her new quilts that is all in shades of white and cream in her classroom this time. It hasn't been shown publicly yet, but you can look forward to seeing that in a future show. Here's another way to look at people and figuratives in quilts. This is another friend of mine, Pamela Allen from Canada. I knew her when she wasn't even a quilter, and now she's winning prizes and teaching all over the country, and I'm so proud of her. Take a look at some of the embellishments that she uses. She has kind of a Picasso approach, but at the same time she's not afraid to put whatever relates to the theme of quilt in here. Very different approach from Hollis, but I gotta tell you, when you look at her quilts, it really makes you smile. I love the texture and the variety in this quilt by Terry Mangat. She does an image of a Guadalupe, but then surrounds it with layers of color and embellishment and texture. You may be familiar with her work for Free Spirit. She's also a textile designer, and she has exhibited some huge quilts here at Quilt Festival in the past. This is Alphabet Soup by Joan Littalt, and this is a fantastic example of one of the trends that I've seen at shows this year, starting with when I went to the Tokyo Quilt Festival and now following up here in Houston. This trend that I'm looking at is 3D and sculptural quilts. They're really becoming more like sculptural pieces that you would expect to see hanging in a gallery or a museum. And so I'm really excited to see that quilters are using other kinds of fabrics and not just working on a flat stitched textural surface, but actually adding in three-dimensional motifs. On this one, we see that she has stitched around the letters and the vegetables and the text, and even has some cutout in the bottom and the top of the quilt. Very creative and very original, and I think that in terms of textile arts and fiber art, she is really a trendsetter here. Here's a small but very powerful piece by Lisa Chipatine called Spinal Tap, and what I love about this piece is not just the 3D textural interest, but the use of many different kinds of fabrics. I love that quilters are stepping into other realms and not just using cottons or even hand-dyed cottons, but here she's used lace and velvet and unknown fibers, and it just gives this very interesting 3D effect, and you're not quite sure what it is, and it draws you in. You have to step closer and closer to figure out what's going on. It's great. This is one of my favorite pieces in this exhibit. It's by Jenny Hearn from Johannesburg, Africa, which may explain why it's so appealing to me. But this is also a great example of the three-dimensional and textural trend that I've been talking about. Look at some of the layers and the circles and the stitching. And when you walk up to this piece, you realize that it's not just a square quilt. It has layers like the layers of sedimentary earth, layers of water, layers of vegetation, layers of history. There's a woven piece in the middle, layers of applique and stitching, and the color pulls you in. It really makes you feel like there's heart beating at the center of it. And here is the finale of my little tour of the SAQA exhibit. This is Rainbow Garden by Susan Shy, also known as Lucky Shy. And check out all of the embellishment and layers and colors and stitching and text. There's so much here, you just don't even know what to look at first. But here is another example of a figurative quilt, again, very different from what Hollis and Pamela did. There is paint that has been squirted out of the end of a bottle. There is text that has been stitched and written, perhaps with a pen. It just has so many layers of whimsy and joy. It's another one of those quilts that you look at it and you just have to smile, and actually, when I look at this quilt, I giggle. Look at the basket of tomatoes, look at the layers of the dress, the rainbow in 3D. This is where we're going. This is a trend that I think is very important, and it's also just a lot of fun. So I hope you've enjoyed our little tour of the SAQA exhibit. eQuilter is proud to be a sponsor of SAQA and other exhibits here at Quilt Festival. And I hope that next year you'll be able to join us and come and take a look at this festival yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.